people joining. So I welcome all for second week's live problem solving session for Learning Analytics Tools course. We'll wait for a few more minutes because there are just five students. Last week there were almost more than 50 participants who had joined the session. So let's wait for maybe one more minute. By the time everyone joins, we can since there are very few people, so if you have any doubts, any clarifications from last week, we can actually begin with them. So feel free to unmute and uh, if you have anything to share. Okay, so shall we start? Shall we begin? There are actually very few people here. We have okay, Pravida. Okay, so let me give brief introduction about myself. My name is Indrayani. I'm now fourth year PhD research scholar at IIT Bombay in the Department of Educational Technology, and learning analytics happens to be my research area. I have done NPTEL TA shape before this course also. For in last year when this course has happened, I also interacted with students enrolled for this course last year also. Okay, so many of you will be having this doubt that what we will be doing here for 2 hours every week. So for 2 hours, what we'll be doing is we'll be solving previous year's assignment questions. So what happens is mostly assignment questions are of similar nature. So when we are solving previous year's assignment, that will help us in solving this year's assignments also and the final exam also. So many of you have happened to register for final year, the certification, the main exam as well. So for that, these sessions will be helpful. Uh, so you can actually interrupt me anytime by using the hand raise function, which you can see at the bottom of the meeting controls. You can raise your hand, and that will grab my attention. So I will pause and I will allow you to speak. Or if you don't want to do that, then you can use the chat box to type in your doubts, or if you have any questions, you can type in the chat box as well. Okay, so both ways work. um, People are slowly joining in, so we will just start with revision of what has been covered in week two's lecture content. So I understand that many of you are working professionals and are enrolled full time for some other degree programs or postgraduate programs, so you may not have gotten time to go through the video lectures. So I will not be covering everything that has happened in video lectures. So obviously this recap is not the replacement for watching videos, but we will touch upon the concepts which will be useful for us to solve the assignment questions. Okay, so last in last week we had seen there are four types of analytics, which is descriptive analytics, then diagnostic analytics, then predictive analytics, and then remedial or prescriptive analytics. So when we collect the data, what exactly does the data look like? How what are the values? What is the mean value, median value, and all those things that come under that is what the data looks like. The what question is answered by descriptive analytics, and then we saw that why a particular thing has happened. So we will be talking about learning analytics and not the data analytics in general. So we also saw the learning analytics definition in last week, that we for us the focus the main agenda for analysis of that data would be how students are learning, how do people learn. That would be the main goal or main agenda. So for that, why a particular thing has happened, that why question we will that gets investigated through the diagnostic analytics. Then comes the predictive analytics. So with the help of all that, how the data looks and why a particular thing has happened, we come up with a hypothesis that a few variables are related or few variables influence some dependent variable. So when we try to implement that hypothesis with the help of dependent and independent variable, where we establish the relationship and where we try to predict based on the values we have, based on the data we have with us, then that becomes a predictive analytics. So there machine learning comes into picture. Okay. So we use different machine learning algorithms and machine learning techniques at that point. Then we saw the prescriptive analytics, as in, since we, for us, learning is the main crux of all analysis. So while learning, what remedial actions we can take to optimize the learning experience and the learning environment for our learners, that comes under prescriptive analytics. So that was the quick and short recap for week 1. So now in week 2, what needs to be done before we start the learning analytics. So we will be discussing pipeline for conducting such studies, or when you are so in learning analytics, where we collect the data from actual human learners. So even if we have some computer based learning environment, some open ended learning environment, our data source or the medium of data are always the human learners. So when we are collecting data from them, there are certain things which we need to keep in mind. So this week has been the center question has been that what are the pointers which we need to remember before we start the data collection and during the data collection phase, and what happens before we start data analysis. Okay, so this week 2 content is what is to be done before actual data analysis begins, when human learners are involved in our data collection or our study phase. Okay, so since we deal with the learning environment, so it could be either classroom study or where students interact with some computer based learning environment. So in those so we have to plan our study accordingly, what kind of data you want from students. So in last week we also discussed various sources for our data. It could be survey data, student survey data, their attendance data, their performance data, and so on. So what data needs to be collected, that we need to decide beforehand, and how the data is to be collected. So performance data, that needs to be collected via their test scores. So you need to prepare a test, questions, you need to have an answer key with you. So you can ask student to answer that test, and then you can verify it with the answer key. So you will get the students performance data with you. So that and other way, so that's the one way. Other so one way is their perception about their motivation, or how are they feeling. So all those kind of information, or that type of data you will get through their surveys. Okay, so we need to decide what data we need to collect from students and how that data is to be collected, whether you want them to them to interact with a computer based learning environment, or you want them to answer certain survey questions, and then what will be the sample for your study. So whether you want to focus on to K-12 students from kindergarten to standard 12, whether your focus is that, or undergraduate students or postgraduate students enrolled for undergraduate program and postgraduate program. So we need to keep all these things in mind, and then how you will contact, or how you will gather those students who are your potential participant, or who are your potential sample for the study. So that goes into planning the study. Then now, once you want to conduct the study, before that there is very important step, which is informed consent. So last year, this thing was very hot in news, that European Union had floated new data ethics for data collection from private service providers like Facebook, WhatsApp, and other internet like YouTube, Netflix, and so on. And apart from that, even for researchers also, what kind of data researchers can collect from other humans. So there are strict guidelines developed by European unions which follow the ethical standards and which are attuned to protect students data privacy or other humans data privacy overall. So that says that we cannot capture the faces of the participants in the study. When the humans are involved, you can't capture their faces because that's a complete invasion of privacy. You can't collect personal information such as where do they stay, where do they come from. You can have you can ask them to categorize their place of stay, like urban area or rural area, but you can't ask for their complete address, you know. So in that way you have to protect data of your participants. And what do we mean by informed consent is you need to inform your participants about nature of the study, what data you want to collect, how you plan to do that, for all the minor details about your study. Say for example, I'll give you example of my PhD study. So for my thesis work, we have a computer-based learning environment called PyGuru, which is developed to teach the Python programming language. So when we approach students, we give them a informed consent form where we explain how we are going to collect the data. So all the detailed steps are mentioned in the consent form, such as first we will introduce you to the system, which is PyGuru. We will give demo. Then you will be asked to answer certain simple questions which we call pre-test. Like pre-test is before they interact, what happens before is the pre-test. So their prior knowledge is checked with the help of pre-test. Then you need to interact with PyGuru for 2 hours, and then after 2 hours we will be administering a post-test. And along with the post-test there is a survey for all the students to fill. So we and so this is the study design. So this study design we have to mention in the consent form so that students know what they have signed up for, what they are supposed to do. So all that information needs to be with the students when they are participating in our study. Apart from that, they need assurance that you will protect their data. You will not share their data with any third party, and you will anonymize their data. You will delete all the personal identifiable information. So when the log data is captured, maybe their associated user ID or email ID also gets captured. So what we do, anonymizing the data, is what we do is we assign them a user number or user ID, which is a random number, so that their name and their email ID etc. doesn't come into the picture when we are doing the data analysis. That avoids the bias in data collection, also data processing and data analysis, and apart from that it also protects the data privacy for all the participants. Okay, so once we have given all these informations to participants, they can uh, decide whether they want to participate in your study or they don't want to participate in your study. We also need to give freedom to the participants that at any point in time, whether they feel that they don't want to do it, they can leave the study. So that we need to give that freedom to them also. While you are so whenever you are planning this such kind of study, you need to keep these points in mind. And what to do for minors, so this is okay that students themselves can decide whether they want to be part of the study, when they want to leave the study, or when they want to complete the participation, and then but what in case of all the school kids like K-12 kindergarten to standard 12 students, what about them? When they are minors, we need to take consent from their parents, so their legal guardians or their parents. So we need to inform them also what type of data we are collecting, whether we are collecting only log data or log data along with some surveys or some other or some other information we will be asking. So we need to disclose all the data collection method to the parents and to the participants. So as and when applicable, when adult participants are there, we can directly inform them, but when there are minor students participating in our study, then we need to inform their parents accordingly. Okay, so that the whole thing is called informed consent. and we have to promise them that their data is safe with us and we will not be sharing their data with anyone, and we will be anonymizing. That means we will be removing all the personal identification information from the data collected. Okay, then happens conduct the study, collect the actual data. So once we have the data, we need to take a backup, store it somewhere on a hard drive safely, take couple of backups so that you don't lose that important data. Okay, and most importantly, we are not sharing that data, so keep that safely. That's very very important, that your data should not be going into hand of anyone other than your research team, the people who are involved in your study. Apart from them, nobody should have access to that data. So once we have data, we have everything, then we will start the pre-processing of that data. Now anonymizing that data is very very important, as we need to protect. It is ethically, morally it is moral responsibility of researchers to protect personal data of participants, since they have graciously agreed to be part of your research study. They have graciously agreed to give their own data, their usage data or their perception data through their survey, all the information they have graciously agreed to. So all that thing, we need to respect that. So it's our moral responsibility to anonymize or to hide the personally or the identification information which can identify or which can link that data collected to a particular person. Okay, yeah. So now I'll be yes, this is the first slide. We have just started with the recap. So if you have gone through the week 2 content, then this will be a revision for you. If you have not gone through the week 2 content, then this is a quick recap of what has happened in week 2. Again, this is not a alternative to watching videos. Please do watch videos. Apart from that, I wanted to mention that tomorrow there will be live interaction with Professor Ramkumar by NPTEL. So you all would have received the YouTube live link in the discussion forum or the announcement forum of Swayam platform. So if you have any specific doubts or any queries, please do join tomorrow's session and you can ask Professor Ramkumar directly. Okay, so he is the authority in this field. We are all learning, we are all student, so you can actually interact with him tomorrow and ask your questions to him directly tomorrow. Okay, so this is one announcement which I wanted to make. Okay, then now we were at the pre-processing that data. So we have anonymized that data. Now feature generation. So log data is something which is the clickstream data, or where you have clicked and what you have clicked and all that information. So in the raw format, it doesn't tell us anything, that you have clicked here, you have clicked there, along with the timestamp. So raw data doesn't give us any information. We need to extract information from that raw data, raw log data. So it needs a lot of processing, a lot of information, a lot of we need to perform many operations to generate some features which will tell us or which will give us some information about what the students are doing. So instead of their click data, that where they have clicked and at what time they have clicked, so based on their clicks we need to deduce their actions, that whether they have what action they are doing, whether they are reading, whether they are watching video, and based on the timestamp we can generate the time spent on a particular action, that feature. So all the action performed, the timestamp, time spent onto a particular action, so all that kind of things are known as features, which are generated based on the raw log data. Okay, so that's the feature generation process. So once we have that feature generation and everything with us, generate a list of features with us, then we can apply the analytic techniques. So we have seen that there are pattern generation techniques. So once we have the actions performed along with the timestamp, then we can have the sequential actions mined through in that data. No? So we can use different analytic techniques that will come in, that will start coming from next week's content. So don't worry about, we will not go there what analytic techniques we can use on. So but just keep in mind that we can do descriptive analytics and diagnostic analytics mainly, and then we can come to predictive analytics also. We can develop some hypothesis, and we decide our dependent variable and independent variable, and we can try predicting the dependent variable based on what independent variable values we have collected through this data collection. Okay, then last and most important is inferring the result, where our domain knowledge comes. So when if so say again, I will give you my thesis example, that there I am dealing with the learning environment which actually takes care which actually is designed to teach and learn Python programming language. So I am also from computer science background, so for and I have taught computer science for courses for a couple of years, so that there my domain knowledge will help me in understand linking actions which students are performing in PyGuru to their learning or their programming efficiency. So likewise here, inferring the results, there our data analytics or the learning analytics domain knowledge also comes into picture, and our actual domain knowledge, the domain in which we have studied, that also comes into picture, comes into play. So inferring the results is what makes us different than the makes this field different than the data analytics, the main data analytics field. Okay, so for main data analytics, this may not be that much important, but for us in learning analytics, our understanding about how learning is happening, what factors are important, and what factors we should pay attention to while optimizing their learning experience and their learning environment, so that plays an important role for us. So we'll move on to next. So if there are any doubts, this would be now would be the right time to type it in the chat box. Okay, so let's move on to feature generation. Okay, so now since we are dealing with learning data, how students are interacting with the environment, and what clicks they are making and so on, so that domain knowledge about our subject and our topic, so that will help us in uh, coming up with the features. Okay, so few techniques here we have enlisted. So one feature generation example which I spoke about on previous slide was based on the clickstream data, we can deduce the actions which students are performing, whether they are reading, whether they are watching videos, whether they are attempting the quiz questions, and so on. So all that we can generate. Apart from that, we can have some categorical variable assigned, and we can use encoding techniques to come up with, okay, so if this action value is this, then we can categorize it as so if they are in reading page, and they are doing some other actions also there, like highlighting or making notes, but then all that will become information seeking, so that becomes one category of action. So likewise, we can have some categorical variables assigned. Then feature scaling and normalization, so based on whether we have captured continuous variables or some categorical variables, we need to normalize the data, or whether we need to do some scaling for that, scale up or scale down for ease of analysis. Okay, then aggregation and grouping. So again, aggregation and grouping, I'll give the same example you can refer to, which we talked about in encoding or categorizing. We can club together different actions, or different or combine their timestamps to calculate the cumulative time spent onto that group of actions, so that would be grouping. Then if there is any text involved, what they are typing and what questions they are asking to in the system, so we can use different NLP techniques to generate the features from their questions, what type of questions they are asking, whether they are asking clarification questions, or whether they are asking something deeper, which requires deeper understanding, and so on. So there is one doubt in the chat box. Let's go. Now we have finished this slide, so we'll go to the chat box. Is there any way that data collection is related to web scraping? How we collect the data without web scrap? Is there any other way? Okay, so we will not go to web scraping, because it will lead to some confusion, because that's another new concept for many of us here. Okay, so what I spoke about in this on this page is, again, we are collecting data from human students for learning analytics purpose, because um, we don't want to do machine learning analytics. So this learning is not machine learning, but this learning is actual learning which happens in the coursework where teacher is teaching and students are learning. So we are talking about that learning and not the machine learning. Okay, so for that purpose we need actual human learning data. So that data we will get from actual human learners. So we will approach the learner. So before that we'll plan the study, and then we'll approach the learner, we'll inform them about our study design and how we are planning to collect the data, how we are planning to store that data. We also need to promise them that we'll protect their data privacy, and we'll follow the data privacy ethics. So and after that we need to collect that data, we need to conduct the study. We can ask them to either respond to the surveys, or so, solve the pre-test post-test questions and so on. So we need to decide different mediums or different how can we collect that data, or instruments we need to work beforehand. And once we have everything ready, then we can conduct the study, get that data from the students, then start the process of pre-processing, anonymizing, feature generation, and then um, use some analytics techniques, and then finally infer the results. Okay, so don't get confused with web scraping and all. This is a lot more simpler than that. It is as simple as going to some school or going to some college and asking students to fill the survey. That is also a way of data collection. And then based on the survey questions, when you are analyzing or trying to infer something based on that data, what you're doing is a learning analytics study. Okay, so a lot simpler than it looks, and a lot complex than it sounds. So in both ways. Okay, now based on students log data, so here are some examples. I was talking about feature generation that may be confusing for first time listeners. So for them I have listed a few examples here. So based on students log data, we will be mainly talking about log data only. We will not be talking about students classroom data or data captured during classroom teaching learning, because uh, that is that is more onto observation type of data. But this is what it is. Log data is based on students actions, where they are clicking and what they are typing and so on. So there is no inference other human observation influencing the data collection process. So to make it more unbiased, we will be talking about the log data only. Okay, so based on the log data, what are different features which we can generate is the examples are given here. So some question related is how, based on their performance. So if there are some video playing and there are some in video questions in between, so how many in video questions were they able to answer correctly and incorrectly. Then there are some, so for example in Swayam platform there are assignment questions. So out of 10 questions in an assignment, how many questions each learner has answered correctly. So that data will give us performance related feature. In week 1, a learner 1 has answered say 6 questions correctly out of 10. In week 2, the same learner has answered 8 questions correctly out of 10. And week 3, 8, week 4, 9, and then week 5 onwards, all 10 questions correct. So we have this data of all 10 weeks assignment questions with us. Based on that, we can have its aggregate performance over the period of course, and we can use that performance to predict their final exam score and so on. Okay, so other time based features would be how much time they have spent. So if there are multiple sessions involved, how much time they are spending onto each session, or how much time they are spending onto each actions. If there are video watching activities, or there are some reading of transcript activities, or some text is given, so what time they are spending onto each of these activities, how much time they are spending onto answering the assignment questions. So all those features or all that information we can derive or we can calculate from the log data of the learners. Then interaction features, like how many times a particular button was clicked, how many videos are watched in one session, or how many videos for a particular difficult module were watched by some learners. So these are some examples of interaction features. So these interaction features we could calculate per user or per session per user. So there is no limit to what features you want to calculate for the log data you have. Okay. And other type of example would be very content specific. So say for example, the system which I use for data collection, PyGuru, it has feature where students can go through the textual data and they can highlight and annotate, they can make notes, and they can highlight some important text also. There is video type of data where they can watch video, and there are some in video questions there. So these are some system specific actions which students can perform. So these actions students cannot perform in Swayam platform, even though Swayam is also online learning environment where there are video, where there is reading content, where there are MCQs, some programming assignments also few courses have. So all these things are common, but then that data is getting captured in PyGuru is not the same as that of data getting captured in from Swayam platform. So such content specific features or such system specific features for me would be, for PyGuru would be what text they have highlighted, what was the page where maximum highlights have happened. So is that the topic which students are finding difficult, so I can develop one hypothesis around it and then try to prove that hypothesis through their performance data in the MCQs and their pre-test post-test data. So likewise we can, so this was just an example. Okay, so I think we are done and we can move on to assignment questions. So before that, if there are any doubts, then we can move on to assignment questions. If there are no doubt, then you can raise hands if you want to ask questions, then we can actually, yeah, you can talk, unmute, and then ask questions also. Okay, so now from this week onwards, what we will notice is there might be multiple options correct. Okay, for assignment questions. Okay, I'm beginning with the question solving. So I'm assuming that there are no doubts, and if there are doubts, we'll solve along with the questions. Okay, so I'll read out the questions. So before commencing with week 2 questions, this is the announcement which I wanted to make, is that there may be more than one options correct for questions here. Okay, so you need to be careful that there could be more than one answers also correct. So now in Swayam platform, how to identify if the question has only single correct answer or multiple correct answer. So when there are multiple correct answers, you will see it's a square box before the options, and if there is just one correct answer, you will see the radio button, which is like circle before the options. Okay, so this is the trick which you can use to identify whether given question has only one correct answer or multiple correct answer. Okay, so for this question, I will give a clue that this question has more than one correct answer. Okay, so now I'll read the questions. Those of you who have answered in the chat box, try to think and try to give me the correct answers. There are multiple options which are correct. Okay, so I'll read out the question. What is or are true about technology enhanced open-ended learning environments? Okay, so technology enhanced is with the help of technology, if a certain learning experiences are enhanced, therefore technology enhanced. Now what is open-ended learning environment? So what happens is, there are two ways in which students can learn. They can go from topic sequentially, from topic A to B to C to D to E to F, and then finish that particular subject and be out of the system. But that is not open-ended. Open-ended is what? Let learner choose what topic they want to study or they want to read about, whether they want to start with topic A, or if they know topic A already, then they can jump to topic C and D. So they learners have this liberty of deciding the sequence of topics in open-ended environment. Okay, so technology enhanced open-ended learning environment is TEOLE. So open-ended learning environment is OELE, and technology enhanced learning environment. So in technology enhanced learning environment, this could be linear also and open-ended also. No, the sequential, the learner may not have liberty to change the sequence of the topic, but in open-ended, learners have that freedom to choose what they want to, what topic they want to go through. Okay, so this question has multiple answers correct. So now we will read and we'll try to understand what is true about technology enhanced open-ended learning environments. So first option is technology acts as scaffold. Yeah, so scaffold is a help. Okay, external help. So yes, obviously, because it is technology enhanced learning environment, so technology is acting as a scaffold. Technology is helping students learn. So scaffold is a kind of help. So technology acts as a scaffold is a true. That statement is true. Then option 2 is shift the learning process from student to teacher centric. So what do we mean by teacher centric and what do we mean by learner centric? So teacher centric process is where the entire control of teaching, learning and the learning experiences is in the teacher's hand, where learners have very less liberty of asking questions or deciding which topic will be taught. So classroom environment is mostly teacher centric environment, but our teachers, they try to make that teacher centric environment to more friendly learner centric environment, where learners can raise hand, ask doubts, and they can answer questions which teachers are asking. But what topic is to be taught and how it is to be taught, through what medium, whether using PPT or just lecture delivery where a teacher is talking and learners are listening. So all those important crucial decision making power is in the hand of teachers in teacher centric learning. And in learner centric learning, that power is in hand of student, what topic they want to learn and how they want to learn. So that liberty is with learner or student in learner centric environment. So shift the learning process from student to teacher centric. No, that's not happening in open ended learning environment. In open ended learning environment, student is having that liberty, which topic they want to pursue, they can decide. So that means option number 3, that statement, shifting the learning process from teacher to learner centric, this is true. Now coming to option 4, in TEOLE, there is no support provided by tutor at all. So this may be true, may not be true, but we can't be 100% sure. So nowadays in school, many teachers, they use online systems which are available uh, to supplement their teaching learning. You know, there are some apps such as Khan Academy or MindSpark. So likewise in school, they are actively encouraged that apart from the traditional classroom, students are encouraged to go to these online learning environments for support. So that means the teacher is there, you can go to teacher and ask doubts. So oftentimes technology enhanced open-ended learning environments are not standalone, but they are used as help in teaching by many of the teachers. So this may or may not be true. It is not true in all the cases. Okay. So now correct options are only option 1 and option 3. Both are correct. So here technology is scaffold or help. So technology will act as a bridge to bridge the gap of geographical divide, of the economic divide, of the place divide, gender divide. So like Khan Academy is a US based learning environment, but in India we all use Khan Academy. At least once we all have used or gone through the videos uploaded by Khan Academy. So such difference is bridged by technology. So technology is a main scaffold. So this statement is very much true or very much correct about technology enhanced open ended learning environment. Now going to question 2, what information must be provided to participants before conducting research studies. Okay, so we have discussed this when we discussed about informed consent. So informed consent means that your students or participants need to be informed about how your data will be collected, what data will be collected, and why are you collecting the data, what is your main motivation behind conducting the study. Okay, so that means what data will be collected. Statement A is correct. Statement 2, why and how the data will be collected. Yes, we need to inform that also about our study design, how each of the how each mode or instrument you are using. So we need to disclose about instruments of data collection also. So how you are collecting that data, that also we need to disclose in informed consent. Then how the data will be stored. Yes, it will be anonymized and then stored. Okay, so we need to tell our participants that also, that we will not be sharing your data with anyone else, and we will be anonymizing that data, and that data will not be hampering your performance or your marks in school. Okay, because this is something, this is not the formal evaluation method. So your studies are not part of formal evaluation methods. Ideally it should not be that way, because otherwise there you will not be able to capture your learners true behavior. You will not be able to capture their actual behavior pattern, or that will be influenced if you are clubbing your data collection with the formal assessment of the student. So that is advised against. You are introducing the bias in the study. So if there is bias, your data will not be true and you will not be able to prove your hypothesis. So we need to tell them that also. Now option 4 is where journal or conference will the research be published. Okay, so this is tricky, and many of us often get confused about this option 4. Do we need to tell participants where we will be writing our research paper, where that will be published, whether we'll be going for conference, whether we'll be going for journal? Won't that depend on what type of analysis we are doing? Even though the hypothesis and the hypothesis study design, what data we are collecting, that needs to be decided beforehand. But what if that data has not helped or has not proven our hypothesis? So will our paper be worthy of a journal? No, it will not be. And even before your data is collected, even before your analysis has happened, we can't predict whether that will be accepted in a peer reviewed journal or a peer reviewed conference. So this is something which is not in our control. Our control is we can analyze that data, we can write the research paper, and we can try our best to get it published in the best of the venue. But we can't guarantee that, okay, we will submit the paper only to XYZ conference or ABC journal. No way we are going to predict that. Okay, so this is again a tricky statement, and this is not true. How can you be so sure that the paper you are writing will get 100% accepted in conference XYZ or journal ABC? Okay, so yeah, you will be publishing research paper, so that disclosure needs to be given to them, that this data will be used to write a research paper, or it will be part of a thesis work. That disclosure needs to be there. But how you can control where it is going to get published? Okay, so I see your hand raised. So yeah, Amitabh ji, you can unmute and ask question. Okay, so this again depends on dissertation of researcher. So what happens is when we go to colleges and when we ask them, so many colleges express interest that they want to see the publication, they want to see the analysis and the outcome and what inference we have drawn. And many of the colleges are not interested or they don't want. So students mostly are not interested in reading our boring research papers. So students don't ask for the research papers. Only the higher level stakeholders, such as their teachers or the authorities, school authorities, they are interested in these things. So once we ask them whether when we'll publish the paper, do you want a copy? So if they say yes, then we do send them a copy. But if they say ki no, there's no need for us to have a copy of your research work, then we don't send it. So this becomes very context specific, and maybe the interest of stakeholders involved. If sometimes students or parents are involved or interested, then they ask for the output of or the outcome of the research study. So at that time, after your paper is published, you can share your paper with them. So we are supposed to share with them, but if they don't want, then why to spam them, no? Okay, so we are moving on to next question, question 3. uh, as researcher or teacher, which of the following data will be collected in classroom environment about students performance? So in the beginning I said that we will be talking about students log data, but here the question is about the classroom environment. Okay, so we have to be very careful while answering this question. Okay, so in students classroom learning environment, what data we can collect? So students miss semester exam, yes, of course we can collect this data from the classroom setting, classroom learning environment. Then score in their course project, whether a teacher has given them some project to do, and what is their score in that project. So that data also we can collect through classroom environment. Then assignment completion, whether, so there are, suppose for example, there are some 4 assignments throughout the semester. So the information about their completion of the assignment, that also we can collect through classroom environment, right? And students extra co-curricular activities, it is not just co-curricular activities, it is extra co-curricular activities. So you can record this information, of course you can record, but will this information be useful for your analysis method? What extra co-curricular activities outside the school they are doing? Nowadays kids, they go to n number of activities outside school. It is not just limited to just going to school and coming back home, but they attend many different classes and they do many different extra co-curricular activities. So will this information be useful for us to draw some inferences? I see one hand raise. Yes ma'am, please unmute and ask the question. Madam K. Subhatra, you have raised your hand. So if you have any question, you can unmute and ask. Oh, okay. I'm assuming the scores here. So my Hmm. Right. So if we think it about that way, then yes, but students mid-semester performance or scores. So my explanation was, I assume that it's score or performance. So let me mention it here. Hmm. Yes. Yeah. So I hope. Yeah. So we will consider it as their performance or their score in their mid-semester exam. Okay. So yeah. I see another hand raise. You can unmute and ask question. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So let me give you an example of a study design. Okay. So when I discussed about pipeline of learning analytics study, I gave one pointer about planning. Yeah. Let's go back to that slide. Okay. Yeah. What data will be collected from students and how that data is to be collected and where the sample of that study will come from. So all these questions, uh, these are related to, you need to set boundaries to your data collection or to your study design, you know uh, because when humans are involved, there are n number of factors which are influencing their behavior. Say for example, we are conducting some study with class 4 students. So class 4 students are very sensitive so their behavior or their performance will depend on the factor whether they just fought with their bench partner, whoever sitting besides them, whether they had some disagreement with them. So that factor also will influence their behavior, right? So we need to have some set of, we need to determine whether we want to take that thing also into account, or we will just stick to simple instruments and some standardized instruments, standardized surveys, and our learning environment where students can come, log in, play some game, or learn something through our system, some our open-ended learning environment. So we need to decide this before we go for the study. So that is called limiting the study or setting boundary to your study design. So here what we are doing is we are determining which is our dependent variable, which is our independent variable. So what are the independent variables which we are capturing through different instruments? So in by instruments what I mean is surveys, different surveys you are conducting through your participants, or the log data. So log the system, the learning environment itself becomes one instrument of data collection, which will help us in collecting the log data. So all the instruments are working out, if while filling the survey students are getting confused by use of certain jargons, so we need to clarify about those heavy words which are used in the survey forms. So all these things we need to plan before we are conducting the study. So so this what you can say, the setting up the boundary for your learning environment, that you need to decide as a researcher whether you want to make things more complicated by asking students whether you have fought with your friend and have come here, so let me consider that factor also into account while analyzing your data, or you want to leave that part and stick to a simple, what instruments you are using. Say you have used one survey format, you have used one pre-test and then the log data and one post-test. So whether you want to stick to these four factors only, or whether you want to expand the horizon and consider their extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, because it is proven, students who, or the kids who learn music, the classical singing or any instrument playing, they concentrate more onto their studies. So whether you want to gather that information, so that will depend on your hypothesis, whether your hypothesis is okay, students who are involved in some artistic co-curricular activities, whether their performance is more than students who are not involved in artistic co-curricular activities, then at that time you need to collect this information also, what extra co-curricular activities students are involved in. So in that way there is no limit to what data you can collect and how that data you can collect, right? So I think for simplicity's sake, we'll just stick to uh, main, teacher and student in the classroom, how the student teacher interaction happens, and what are the data which are simply collected by a teacher for all the students in the class. So we'll stick to that. So generally teachers don't collect the extracurricular or co-curricular activity list of all students, so that's why we will not go there. But as a researcher, because here there is a researcher slash teacher, so we have certain limitations of teacher. But as researcher we don't, we are not associated with we are not burdened with completion of the syllabus. We have only 2 hours and we have to finish this chapter and so on, so we are not in that constraint. So in that realm of researcher we can expand to anything and everything when we are collecting the data. Okay, so right now we will be limiting, and this we will not be choosing the option 4. But if you are a researcher and if you are interested in understanding the impact of co-curricular activities on students' performance, then you are supposed to, then this becomes a crucial information. This is one of the independent variable, co-curricular activity, what co-curricular activities these students are doing, and how it is determining the dependent variable, which is performance, like either their course project performance or their mid-semester performance or their final semester exam performance. So that becomes your dependent variable. So you have to collect information about your independent variable. So in that case you have to gather all such information. Okay, so don't get confused by these options. These are all very philosophical way of looking at your study design. So let's when such questions come, don't try to go into the deep philosophical angle, but try to simplify the options and try to simplify the questions as far as possible. Think about it as a simple statement and then do it. Okay. Yes, Subhatra ma'am. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If the deadline has not gone, you can reattempt. But if deadline has gone, I think you can reattempt, or you can let it go and have this in mind for your final exam. No? Okay. Don't worry about these assignments because there are 12 assignments. This is 12-week course, so there will be 12 assignments. You will get plenty of chance to improve on your assignment score also. So don't stress about this so much. Okay? Yeah. So we'll go on to option 4. The stage where raw data is converted into actions or events is called. So we talked about feature engineering and how raw data can be converted into different events or actions. So feature engineering is part of, I can see, yeah, I'm getting a lot of correct answers in chat box. So this is part of data pre-processing. So data pre-processing is yes, Subhadra ma'am, you have unmuted. You have something to share with us? Oh, okay, okay. I thought you have something to add to discussion. Okay, yeah. So data pre-processing is something which we do before we start our data analysis. We need to get our data into proper format. We need to have the features generated. We need to look for the missing data values. We need to handle that. We need to remove the incomplete data rows, or we need to decide that based on our RQs. So again, our research questions, which we will decide in our planning phase, the first phase where you are planning the study. At that time, we need to zero upon the research questions, what factors we want to investigate. And most of our course of action will be heavily dependent on what our research questions are. So this generating or converting that raw data into list of actions or events is part of data pre-processing. And data pre-processing is not just limited to this converting actions into events, but it also majorly handles the missing values or deleting the corrupt data and so on. So this was easy, no confusion there. Now consider you are a researcher and wanted to collect data from any learning environment. What will be the primary step what will be the primary steps to protect the ethics and data privacy of the learners? So this also we have discussed at length for very long. No? So what precautions we will be taking? Get consent from participants. I'm getting a lot of correct answers in the chat box. So get consent. Of course, we need to get the informed consent. Our participants need to be informed about how we are collecting that data. Hmm? Then anonymize the data and classify it. Yes, we will be anonymizing it and classify. By classifies mean different modes of data we are conducting, different instruments, multiple instruments we are using. So we need to merge that data and we need to divide that data. So that comes under classification. So anonymize that data and then classify it. For one user, we will create separate files for all the users. So we are classifying that data and so on. Store the data in secure place. Yes, this also we need to do before we start our data analysis. Or ethically, we are supposed to secure the data or store the data very securely, encrypt the data so that even if it is hacked, it will not be open to anyone. So encryption also can come into picture here. Then last option is share the data with participants. um, what data ethics says that morally we are not supposed to share any individual's data with anyone else. That's not ethically right, morally correct practice. So what is morally correct is that data should remain private, that should be protected at any cost. So that's the ethical practice. So if we are sharing the data of participants with each other, that's not ethically correct or morally correct practice. So this last statement is wrong. Yeah, so correct answers are option 1, 2 and 3. Now question 6, which of the following features can be extracted from the MOOC platforms? Okay, so Swayam is one of the MOOC platforms. So when MOOC platform type question comes, you all have interacted with Swayam platform, so you all should think about how you interact with the Swayam platform and where the clicks are happening and what information can be captured through log data and what features can be generated through log data. Okay, so here I will say MOOC platform, one of the examples is Swayam. Yeah, so it will become easier for you to answer. You can relate, you can and then you can answer. So first is time spent on discussion forum. Can we find out how much time individual learner is spending on on discussion forum? Yes, of course, because we are capturing their log data where they are clicking and at what timestamp they are clicking. So if we have timestamps uh, for every click, then we can do deductive conclusion for the time spent onto each action. Hmm? So likewise, time spent on watching videos can be captured, time spent on discussion forum can be captured, and so on. Option 2 is score in video quizzes. So in Swayam there are no in video quizzes, but there is one type of media which is called H5P content. So H5P allows us to embed questions into video. So like teacher while teaching will ask question, have you understood, or some other questions, like for say for example I'm teaching this particular, we are solving this particular question, then I will say what are the examples of MOOC. So this is one of the questions which I can ask while we are solving. So in video where there is no teacher for live interaction, how we can do is we can embed at that particular point, we can have one pop-up coming onto that video, and that question will be that okay, what are the examples of MOOC, then you can either enter or you can choose from the multiple options. Okay, so that quiz, so all that information is also captured, if their answer is correct or incorrect, whether they have paused, played, or they have seeked a particular video. So based on that we can also score, we can also calculate their score in video quizzes. Then option 3 is number of videos watched. So yes, obviously how many videos they have watched we can very easily calculate based on the log data. So this is also correct. And then last is average session time. So every session information is also getting captured. We have all the timestamp. Can we calculate the time spent by learners onto each session? Yes, of course we can calculate the time spent by each learner onto each session. And then say a learner has some 20 sessions throughout the semester, then we can easily calculate the average time spent per session by every learner. Okay, so this feature is also possible. So Ria has question in the chat box. She's asking, is extracurricular activities extracted from it? So Ria, you only tell me whether it is possible from the log data of you interacting with Swayam platform. Is there any way that Swayam can have information about your extracurricular activities or co-curricular activities unless Swayam floats a survey where you report? So it is self-report data. We call it self-report when students are answering for themselves in a survey. So unless it is asked from that way, we will not be able to gain any information about what they are doing outside the Swayam platform or outside the MOOC platform. Okay. So let's go to question 7. In MOOC data, what field is used to identify user location? So user location, where they are located. So user ID is something, some random number associated with every user. So that will not give us any information about where user is located geographically. Timestamp, obviously no. Timestamp will give us information about when they have performed that action. So this is also incorrect. IP address, yes, IP address is possible. IP address will help us in understanding, or it can help us in deducing the location of a particular user. Session ID, no, because every session you can do it from different places. Yeah, so I see one confusion between option 1 and 3. So user ID will not give us information about their location, because user ID is mostly like a roll number. Yeah, so every one of us will not get roll number based on what our native place is, you know. Yeah, it can be unique, so why not? Ria is asking why user ID is not, because it has to be very specialized number, where, say for example, it will have some letters of first letter. Right now I'm sitting in Mumbai, so I can say MUM will determine some user from Mumbai, and I'm user 356. So this could be my unique user ID, which can give information about Mumbai. But do our school roll number give information about our place of residence? Yeah. So it is not always true. It is not, not all the roll number system or all the unique ID systems will not always give us about information about location. But IP address, a computer IP, will for sure give us information about user's location. So if there is any special kind of unique ID or user ID which you are designing for your system, where you can have location information hidden in user ID, but then what will happen when that user goes to some other geographical location and accesses since this is online computer based learning environment, we are saying that okay, technology is a very useful scaffold here, which will bridge the gap of geographical differences among the learners. Then how this user ID will help us in determining? It may tell us information about what is the native of a particular learner, but it will not give us information about from what location user has accessed the MOOC or the system, है ना? So this, for MOOC data, IP address is the only possibility, or otherwise also IP address is the only possibility where you will for sure get correct information about user location. Because even if I am designing my unique ID to reflect the location of the learners, I may go to some other place and may access the system from that other place. So this will not always be giving me correct information about location, but IP address will always give us the correct information about the location or the place from where a user is accessing the particular system. Okay, so you can have some clarifications by others also in the chat box. Okay, Ria, so go through these messages, Deepak ji is saying because the question is about the location, where exactly they are geographically located when they are accessing this system. Then Akshay is saying user ID can be used to get the IP address, which can be used to identify the location. So along with the user ID and the IP address, but the main location information will be disclosed by IP address alone. Okay. Okay, so let me just. Yes, meeting recording will be okay. Just a minute. Let me close the door of the room. So meeting recordings I upload on YouTube. So I noticed that Swayam, the NPTEL people haven't updated the portal for the links of recording, the YouTube links of recording. Yeah. So what I have done is I have pinned one comment right in the beginning to the YouTube channel, where I upload all week's interaction. So I record every week's interaction and I upload that recording as it is on the YouTube. Okay, so you can I also open this chat box, so everything is recorded. The chat box message is also recorded, and what we are talking or discussing, that is also recorded and that is shared. I am hoping that NPTEL folks will update the portal with the link to the PDFs also, but if they are not doing it, be assured that I'll be sharing these PDFs or the our discussion, this particular document also with you all. So this will happen before exam also, exam for sure, and for now you can refer to the link to the YouTube channel in the beginning. Let me share, or that is already uploaded. If you go to the channel page, the YouTube channel page, you will see the last week's recording also, and after this session gets over, I'll be uploading today's recording as well. Okay. uh, tell the question paper suggestions for upcoming exam. So Shrija, this is very NPTEL pattern is such that 60% questions are very similar to what gets asked in the assignment, and only the 20% or 30% questions are new questions. So if you are going through current year's assignment and what we are solving here, you will be able to score around 60 to 80% in the final exam. And yeah, so that's the pattern which is generally observed in the exam. Okay, yeah. So we'll go to the question paper. So Ria has requested all the questions again at the end of the video. So yes, if the time permits, we'll go through all the questions again. So maybe at that time I will not speak, but you guys can take lead and chat, type in the chat box about what you have understood and what is the correct answer. Okay. Question paper will be of MCQ format. Yes, of course, question paper will be of MCQ format, just like usual NPTEL question papers or SWAYAM question papers. So it will be of MCQ format. Okay. So coming back to question 8. Which of the followings are part of data pre-processing? So again, multiple questions, multiple choices are correct here for this question. Okay. So data pre-processing. So we have to think from data pre-processing point of view. So the things which come in planning phase will not be part of data pre-processing. Okay. So planning is something which comes before pre-processing. So once you have conducted the study and collected all the data, after that the pre-processing will start. So the things which happen before conducting the study or collecting the data will not be part of data pre-processing, but the things which will happen after you have conducted the data, that will be part of data pre-processing. Like between, after you have conducted the data, collected the data, the things which you do before starting the analysis and after, in between that, after conducting the study, collecting the data, and before you start your analysis. So what happens in between that is data pre-processing. So now we will try to read the questions and read the options again. So option 1 say identifying other sources of data required for analysis. So can you tell me whether this is part of planning phase or data pre-processing, or study planning or pre-processing? Whether you want to identify the instruments of the sources of data, how you will collect that data, what data you will collect. So all this is part of planning phase. Yes, all of you are correct, this is part of planning phase. So this will not be part of data pre-processing. Now flagging erroneous data, we have collected the data, we have looked at it, and now we need to flag which data is erroneous, where their error has happened. While capturing the log data, there may be some error, some timestamp error. So logout action, so most common error is of timestamp and time spent, capturing that timestamp and time spent. So what happens is sometimes a learner doesn't log out and the same session continues. The data gets captured continuously when they are coming to the system again after some time. So even though they are not active in between, that timestamp, the difference between that timestamp is so large that it's not possible at all that somebody would be doing a particular action for 48 hours or 26 hours and so on. So that is erroneous data. So we need to flag some such kind of data capture, and we need to tackle that. Okay, so this is part of data pre-processing, because this happens after we have captured the data, collected the data. Now dealing with missing data, yes, of course, when there are flagging the data, how we can deal with the missing data also, so that this is also part of data pre-processing. So most common example is survey forms. There are some 20 questions, and some students may forget to answer some 2-3 questions out of 20 questions, so that data goes missing. So how you will deal with that data, that is part of data pre-processing. So again, how we will deal with that data will be depending on our research questions or the RQs which we have. So option 4, removing irrelevant attributes. So yes, this is also correct. We have too many things getting captured in log data. Not everything will help us in giving some meaningful information about students' learning. So we need to let go of certain attributes which are not contributing towards meaningful feature generation. So this also comes under data pre-processing. So question 9, which of the following is true about privacy? data privacy. I think I ate the word data. Okay, data privacy or learner's privacy. Okay, so now we can read the options and tell. It is someone's right to keep information about themselves secret. This is true or false? So if I start asking each and everyone, where do you stay, send me address, send me phone number, will this be breach of data privacy from my end? Of course it will be. And everybody, all of us have right to keep our information to ourselves. If we don't want to disclose it, we should have that liberty of not disclosing it. So option 1 is correct, about data privacy. It is basic human right. Of course it is basic human right. Now data privacy has been recognized as basic human rights. 1.5 years ago by European Union, they have recognized data privacy as basic human right. Sorry, yeah, as basic human right. So that's also correct. Then option 3, privacy has social benefits. So keeping it doesn't have social benefits. So social benefit is for when you interact with others. So let's interpret social benefits as our interaction with others. So if I'm keeping my information private, will I get benefited in social interaction? No, so I'm not keeping my information private. I'm sharing my information, my name with you all. I'm sharing information about my YouTube channel with you all. So here I'm letting go of my data privacy. I'm not keeping everything undisclosed or under wraps here. I'm sharing that information with you all. So in such cases, the privacy will not lead to any social benefits. Yeah. So in this case, I'm disclosing my information to you all so that you get larger benefit for all. So this statement is not correct. Now option 4, personal privacy can be exploited for sake of scientific advancement. Can you give this argument? Okay, I'm trying to study this certain factors, how they are impacting on human learning. So I have full right to collect each and every bit of information about the participants in my study. So this approach is also wrong. We need to respect others' basic human right of data privacy, and we are not entitled to collect all the information, everything about everything. But we need to tell students, or we need to tell our participants what information we want and what information we will be collecting, and we are supposed to collect only that information only, and not anything and everything. Okay, so this option is also wrong. So only option 1 and 2 are correct. Okay. Coming to option 10. So we have discussed this multiple of times. So option, there is confusion about option 4. Person privacy can be exploited for sake of scientific advancement is related to data leakage. No, it is not related to data leakage. It is related to having a sense of entitlement, or having what you can say, thinking that scientific research is above the basic human rights, and we have full right to capture all the data and disclose it to everyone. Yeah, so data privacy is not just collecting all the information about our participants, but also not keeping that data private. Okay, so what Deepak ji is saying, fourth is confusing statement. If it is statement, then it is true. So again, yeah, again Deepak ji, think about it in that way, that are we, should we be not maintaining the privacy of the data collected? Should we not be anonymizing that data collected? Yeah, you can unmute so we can have a discussion. That's a better option. Yeah. Yes. Hmm. 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 Right. Hmm. Hmm. Right, exactly. So it can be exploited is again a false statement. It's not true statement. You're very right. So we are not. So here, how we are maintaining the data privacy. So by person privacy, what I meant by person privacy, or how we can interpret person privacy is what data we are collecting from our participants, and are we sharing that information with others. So in both ways I'm considering whether collection of that information and information sharing, once we have that data, are we sharing that data with others. So in both ways, uh, it cannot be exploited just because. So we can say that okay, we are making world a better place by doing some scientific research in this area, so we have full right of disclosing all the information about all the students who are accessing Khan Academy or who are accessing Swayam platform. So we will disclose all their information, because while signing up for Swayam we also give our personal information like phone number, our address, where we are staying, where we are working, and so on. So all this is very crucial and sensitive information which can easily identify us. But we should not be of the opinion of that okay, Swayam platform or NPTEL has full right to disclose that information and exploit it in the name of scientific advancement. So again, this is the statement is false. We can have endless discussion on data privacy and ethics topic, because again, ethics is something which is very objective in nature, very personal. So what is ethical for one person may not be ethical for other person. So there are some standards which are prescribed and which we need to follow. Yes, Akshay, you can unmute and ask. Sure, sure, yeah, go ahead. Right. Yeah, yeah, very good example given. So yes, Deepak ji, you have rightly typed in the chat box. Think as a simple statement. So again, for all the questions, even in the exam, this would be my advice that don't go into the philosophical angle of any statement. Okay, think it as a very simple English statement and treat it as simple English statement, and don't try to go into deeper philosophical aspect of any statement. Okay, so we had such discussion almost. So once we will once again go through all the questions. So every questions, every options, it can be true, it can be false. Both is like it can be correct, it can be incorrect. If we go deeper, every correct option will start looking incorrect, and every incorrect option will start looking correct. Remember our extracurricular and co-curricular activity wala discussion in previous questions. So keep it simple, interpret as a simple English statement. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to last question. Arrange the following sentences in the correct order of the sequence. How we will be going through all the steps. So all these steps are of learning analytics study pipeline, the first slide which we did today. So first thing what we will be doing is, I will just write number here on the side. Okay, so analyzing that data, pre-processing the data, collection of that data, get approval from ethics committee to conduct research and collect data, get participants consent. So first thing first is we need to have ethics committee approval of our institute, that okay, we are planning to do this. So there are some experts who are part of this ethics committee. They will guide us that what is the best way, what is the humane way to collect the data, and they will check whether our way of collecting data is human or not. If it is not, then they will prescribe some course correction for us. So this is the very first step, that getting approval from ethics committee. So this is the first step. Then once we have that approval, now we can plan our data, and we can approach our participants and get their consent. So this consent will be the second step. Then we will collect the data. Okay, so this will be the third step. And then we will pre-process the data. And then finally we will analyze data. And after analysis, the sixth statement or the sixth step would be interpreting the result. Interpret the result of analysis. This would be the sixth step. So now the correct statement or the correct sequence of action is 4, 5, 3, 2 and 1. So which is 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, option 1. Yeah. So this was also very simple, recall based. It is already covered in the videos by Professor Ramkumar, and we also saw it as the first slide, first discussion for this week which we had. Okay, so now we are done with all the questions. So we will go through all the questions once again. So one tip which I gave you was how to identify the questions where multiple options are correct is you will see the square button besides all the options. So once you see the square button, that means there are more than one options correct for that particular question. And if there is only one answer correct, then you will see the radio button, which is this circle in front of options in the assignment page on Swayam platform. Okay. Yeah, those who want to leave, please feel free to leave the meeting. That's fine, Deepak ji. Thank you for informing us. You can please leave. Tomorrow's session time would be evening time. Please cross check once on Swayam portal. So tomorrow I will make this announcement once again for benefit of those who missed the initial part of today's discussion. Is tomorrow there is live interaction with the instructor scheduled. So you will instructor is Professor Ramkumar. So he himself, whose videos we all watch, so he himself will be conducting this live session. So if you have any doubts, if you have any confusion, please feel free to attend tomorrow's session and ask all those doubts himself. Okay, so that was it, and that discussion is on 4 p.m. Yes, so it will happen at 4 p.m. tomorrow. So Nilabja Roy has some statements. I'm going to read this out. Oh, this question is from this year's assignment, current assignment. I am not at liberty to discuss this. Otherwise, it will influence. It will be like undue benefit or undue advantage to those who are attending this session. So I will not be. I'll refrain from discussing this. There are many questions which are common. Okay, we have solved those questions which are as is repeated in this year's assignment. So that is ethically correct. But some new questions which they have put, that would be ethically incorrect practice. And since we have discussed so many things about what is ethically and morally correct and incorrect, so let's refrain from discussing this question. Okay. Okay, so Ria is asking, I have already filled the query from, but the date is rescheduled, so this should I fill the form again? I think that will not be needed. Your question will be recorded. Don't worry about it, Ria. Yeah, it would be recorded. Or otherwise, you can type in the YouTube interaction, the chat box, live chat box. Also, you can keep your questions ready. Either you can type there or you can send beforehand. So both way it is possible. Yeah. Okay. ठीक है. Can I know what is pattern mining? Okay, so pattern mining. Dharshini, pattern mining is a data analysis technique which is part of diagnostic analysis. Why a particular thing is happening. So what we do is once we generate the features, the action, the list of events, like we have seen in data pre-processing, we have it in the form of timestamp and the list of actions. So once that is there, we can mine for patterns or the sequence of actions which are happening repeatedly for students. So that thing in simple way is called pattern mining. It's a computer science or data science technique. It is part of very similar to data mining. So pattern is sequence of actions. So we'll mine for that sequence of actions and we'll try to infer that why a particular thing has led, because these actions are very prevalent for a particular user. it comes under diagnostic analytics because it helps us understand why a particular thing is happening, why a particular thing has happened already. So how do we analyze, if say for example, I have a kid, and my kid is not eating. He has gone out to play and he has come back home and he's not having his dinner. So I'm worried that why this particular thing is happening. So what I will do is I will try to diagnose or try to understand why he's not having why he's not having dinner. So I will ask him what he has done. So tell me, you went down to play at the park and what all things you did. So he tells me, okay, I went to park, I ran and ran and ran, and then I got hungry, but I met one of my friend and he had brought some apples to the park and I ate that apple. So I will try to look for that, for such patterns. So this going down and playing is one session of learning which is happening. So if a particular learner is doing well at the exam, then how he is learning, what actions he is performing in every session. So how I will identify is I will try to understand what actions he is performing, whether he is reading longer, whether he is reading multiple times, again and again he's reading, or he's going through videos again and again. So how I will get all that information is I will try to mine for this sequence of actions, for the patterns, that okay, read, 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 watch video, attempt quiz. That could be one pattern which I will identify from the sequence of action for each learner, that how many times that has happened. So this we will see in upcoming video when we will start diagnostic analytics. We'll see in detail that how pattern mining works. Okay, so don't get confused now, because you know very little about pattern mining. So once you have watched the video, you will understand how it works, and you know how it is calculated or how it is mined. So don't get confused now. If you're not understanding, don't worry. Once you see, understand it from example, because diagnostic and pattern mining itself is, if I have to give overview, we will require at least 1 hour. Okay, so it is out of scope for today's session since it is not covered in this week, but I've tried to give you some idea. Another question by Ria is pattern mining what we see, in which pattern it is working, and why, right? So why it is diagnostic? Because Ria, there are some WH questions like what, why, and how, which we need to find answer to before we try to come up with any hypothesis or any predictive models. So how we will try to understand this, what has happened, the descriptive analytics will help us tell. Describing the data, simply describing the data will tell us what has happened. Hmm? But how a particular thing has happened or why a particular thing has happened, to gain answer of that we need to do diagnostic analytics. So I will again give you the same example which Professor Ramkumar has given in his video. Is when you go to doctor, you describe what has happened. Okay, I am having a tummy ache, I am also having a vomiting. Then now doctor will try to identify the root cause. How he will identify the root cause? He will ask you, do you eat out often? Have you eaten any outside food? What water have you drunk? Did you drink any unfiltered water recently? So all these questions, they will try to understand the pattern, whether that pattern was eating outside which has led to your symptoms, the headache and stomach ache, or whether drinking that outside water. So all that thing, so that word, that diagnosis, that word has been associated with this. Yes, Ria, you can speak. No, can you elaborate more onto your doubt? I did not understood what you're trying to say. Mm-hmm. 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 No, it will tell us how that has happened, whether he has read and watched video, attempted quiz, or he has just watched video and attempted quiz without reading. So that is telling us how a particular thing has happened, no? Yeah. Have you got my point, or there is some confusion? Yeah, you got now how a thing has happened, so see, you have understood this by asking questions. So there was a pattern that you kept on asking questions till your doubt got resolved. So this pattern of asking question is how you came up to a clear concept. Okay, so translate this interaction into pattern mining. Try to correlate this to pattern mining, so now pattern here was that you came in, you logged in, so one session started, and now you had this one doubt for which you kept on asking questions. You typed in chat box, that also did not help, so you raised your hand, you unmuted, you asked. So there was a pattern. So likewise, this mining of pattern will tell us how students are getting their doubts resolved. So now have you understood this with your own example? Yeah. So this is how the diagnosis has happened. Okay. So the hypothesis is that students who ask questions when the topic is taught, when the topic is hot in their minds, they get their doubts resolved quicker. So that's the hypothesis. So to support that hypothesis, we have to understand how a particular thing has happened. So once we have understood that how a particular thing or how students are getting their doubts resolved, so then we will be able to understand how a particular thing has happened. So that's why it comes under diagnostic. Okay. So Dhanashree is asking what is Dharshini is asking what is scaffold. So scaffold is an external help, just like when building is getting painted, there are some structure outside to support where painters stand and they do the plastering or painting of that building. So that is scaffold. So seriously, scaffold similarly scaffold is used here. So scaffold is not the main thing but the helping hand. So here in any open-ended learning environment, scaffold is something which helps in getting things done, but it is not the main thing. So in any open-ended learning environment or technology enhanced learning environment, the main thing or the main teaching learning, that content becomes the hero, but here technology is a way or a medium of getting that across. So that's how technology is secondary, hence it is called scaffold. Okay, so that's why this is correct. In teaching learning or the pedagogy, that is more important, so that is scaffold. Then shifting the learning process to teacher centric to learner centric. Learner centric is something where learner has control of what topic to learn and from what topic to start learning and which to skip and which not to skip. But in teacher centric learning, teacher decides what to teach and what to skip. So that liberty is not at teachers, not at students end. In technology enhanced learning, that liberty is handed over to learners, so hence the process becomes learner centric. That's why statement 1 and 3 are correct, and 2 and 4 are incorrect for technology enhanced learning environment. Now, what information must be provided to participants before conducting the research? So what data will be collected, why and how that data will be collected, how we will be storing that data, we will be anonymizing, we will not be sharing with others. All these information we need to share with in the informed consent with all the learners. Now option 4 is where, journal or conference, will the research be published. So we are not sure about which journal or which conference we will be writing to, whether that journal or conference will be accepting what we have written. There is no guarantee before conducting the research, before even starting with our data analysis. Hence, this statement 4 is incorrect. But if you want, you can share your publication later on with the stakeholders involved. Stakeholder meaning parents of your the participants of your study, the teachers of the participants of your study, and the participants themselves. So they all form the stakeholder in your study. So you can share your research outcome with them if you want, if you wish, or if they request, then we have to disclose it, we have to share it. Okay. So question 3, as a researcher or teacher, which of the following data will be collected in classroom environment about students' performance? So students mid-sem exam scores or their performance in the mid-semester exam, that we can collect. Okay, there is a statement in chat box. Let me read it. A clear answer given to that assignment question in lecture 8 where sir has provided. Okay, so this is about other things. Students mid-semester scores or their performance, then their scores in course project, yes, then their assignment completion rate, whether they have completed, whether they have submitted the assignment or not, that is also correct. So in order to keep the things simple, we will be focusing, for this question we'll be focusing on the data which we can easily collect for all the students in our class, which are recorded in a traditional method, because we are teacher also, not just the researcher can collect data through different instruments, through, as much time as he wants he can devote to data collection phase. But as a teacher we have certain limitations, so unless and until our research question specifies, we will not ask for other information. This is about their performance. So about performance, their performance in class. So when we think about their performance in class, only option 1, 2 and 3 are relevant. For class performance, for a straightforward scenario, their co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, we will not be considering. Hence the correct options are 1, 2 and 3, and we will not be considering 4. Question 4. The stage where raw data is converted into actions or event is part of data pre-processing, because once the raw log data does not give us any information about what actions they are performing, for how long they are performing, and so on. So for that we need to do some feature generation on that data, and that is part of data pre-processing. Data processing and data analysis is something which happens after that, and data reporting is writing report or inferring your results. Yes, Akshay?
Ma'am, can you explain a bit definition about the data post-processing? Like sir has mentioned, but sir didn't explain that. Can you bit
Oh,
explain data
these are just
post-processing?
data science words. Don't get confused. Pre-processing is data cleaning. We'll do some sort of we'll handle the missing data. We'll delete the erroneous data, irrelevant data deletion. So all that part happens is in that all that part happens is data pre-processing, and post-processing would be feature generation. That raw data, some information we will derive based on that raw data. We will polish that data, that raw log, the clickstream data. We will make it more useful, more relevant for analysis. So there are different ways of analysis, there are different tools available for analysis. um, every analysis tools requires data in a particular format. So once we have done the data cleansing, we have generated actions and events, we need to get that data in the format which is required for a particular tool. So that will be part of data post processing. So we will be processing that data, will be giving that to data analysis tools, and we will be gaining back that data, and now we will be doing some descriptive analytics so that we get some visual, we can draw some visual inference from the results. So that will become the post processing. Okay, so don't get confused with these
Okay, ma'am.
words, keep the simple pipeline in mind. So consider you are a researcher and you want to collect the data. Let me drink some sip of water. Okay, so consider you are a researcher and you want to collect data from any learning environment. What are the primary steps to protect the ethics and data privacy of the learner? Okay, so getting the consent from the participants, getting the informed consent from them, then anonymizing that data and storing it securely is all part of ethical practices which we will perform to protect the privacy of the learners. Now sharing that data with other participants will not be protecting their data privacy. We will be invading, or we will be breaching their data privacy. So that makes option 4 incorrect and option 1, 2, 3 correct. Okay. Question 6. Which of the following features can be extracted from MOOC platform? So one of the MOOC platform is Swayam. So we can think about Swayam and try to answer which is correct and which is incorrect. So this gives us that time spent on discussion forum. Yes, we can derive such features from MOOC data. I will jump to option 3. We'll come back to option 2 later on. Option 3, number of videos watched. Yes, based on our click stream, the click data, we can derive the number of videos each learner has watched, and average session time can also be easily calculated by log data of MOOC platform. Now some MOOC platform have videos, and there are some in video questions embedded. So it is a type of H5P content. That type of content is known as H5P content. So you can Google if you want to use this H5P in your classroom. You can use it. Very easy to understand visual tool. It is there designed for teachers to use in their classroom. So that data can also get captured whether they have answered the questions correctly or incorrectly. So we can have score of learners for that in video quizzes also captured. So that also becomes a correct option. So I'm reading the question in the chat box. Is the learning platform generally MOOC platform? So no, MOOC is massive open online content. Whereas we can design some specific platforms for studies. That could be also open-ended or technology enhanced learning platform, but it will not be MOOC. So I will give you example of the system which I use for my thesis work. So that is not open for all. We use it, yeah, Google Classroom is also not open for all. We use it for a specific classroom. We create their user ID, give them password, and then only students can log into Google Classroom. Not everyone can come and log into Google Classroom. So in MOOC it is open for everyone, but Google Classroom is like, your kids, the kids in your class only, they will be allowed to join a particular classroom. But in MOOCs or in Swayam, people from around the globe can join the classroom. So that's the difference between massive open online content and you can design or you can develop your own system also, and you can use that to collect data of learners. So not all learning platforms are not MOOC, but all MOOCs are learning platforms. Okay. In MOOC data, so now we are at this so Swayam platform is not open ended, because in the beginning they release the content week wise. Okay, week 1 and week 2 and then week 3, and you are supposed to go sequentially. You can skip content if you already know the concept, but the data they are releasing in sequence, so that makes the Swayam platform as non-open ended. If they would have released all the 12 weeks at one go, that would have made the Swayam platform open ended, where students can choose which week they want to start with. So right now Swayam platform is MOOC, but it is not open ended. It is a technology enhanced learning environment because there is a active use of technology for forums, for video watching, and for other purposes. The system is technology enhanced, but it is not completely open ended. It is somewhat open ended because for every week you can choose which video you want to watch. Okay, so it is not completely open ended. Now coming to question 7, in MOOC data, what field is used to identify user location? So simple computer science concept, the IP address. Through IP address we can get to know from which geographical location a student has logged into a MOOC or a Swayam platform for that particular session. There could be multiple sessions. For every session student can go to multiple locations. So even though you can design user ID or the unique number for each user to reflect their location, but they can change their location and log in through different geographical location, and that information without any mistake can be given only by IP address and not by the timestamp or the session ID or the user ID, even though user ID and session ID are the unique values. Okay, so there is a question in chat box. Is Swayam check number of videos watched or discussion forum for giving final result? No, they don't use these features because it's a massive open online course. There are thousands of students who are asking questions in forum and who are enrolling for the courses. So I have seen the course where lakhs of students have enrolled for a MOOC course on Swayam platform. So at such massive, they have very large data for every year, and they have such multiple runs and multiple semester running data for all the courses. So they don't use this data of how many times a video has been watched or how many times a forum has been accessed. All this information they don't use while calculating the final result, but it is there to improve your learning experience, to give you optimum learning experience, which is more suited for your improved or enhanced learning. So all these scaffolds are there for you to make complete use of. Okay, moving on to question 8. Which of the following are part of data pre-processing? Okay, so for this I had told that data pre-processing is something which happens after you have planned the data and conducted the data, and before you start the data analysis. So something which you do in between, that is data pre-processing, before you begin your analysis, but which you do after you have completed your data collection. So first statement is identifying other sources of data required for analysis. This thing is part of planning the study and not the data collection, or it doesn't come after you have collected the data, after you have already collected the data. Okay, so that makes this option wrong. And other statements like flagging erroneous data, dealing with missing data, and removing the irrelevant attribute, all this is part of data pre-processing. So Ria is asking, I have completed all the lectures in YouTube, not in Swayam. Doesn't matter, that's okay. Watching videos is important. Where you're watching, whether you're watching from YouTube or Swayam, doesn't matter. So flagging erroneous data is, so what happens, one example I had given when we were discussing for the first time is, if student forgot to log out, the same session keeps on continuing for 2 days, 3 days, till the time student comes back and logs into system again. So in that scenario, what happens is, the last action which student had performed in previous session and the first action which student has performed, the time spent on the last action is the time between those two sessions. Say for example, we are having this session today, and one of you forgets to log out and is part of this meeting till the next week we come. So does that mean this meeting was going on for one entire week? No, that becomes the erroneous data capture. So we need to identify such erroneous instances in the data collected, and we need to flag them, and we need to correct the data values in that rows. So this meeting is ending at 9 o'clock. This is flagging, is just identifying, that's it. So we need to identify and we need to correct it also. So dealing with that data is also part of data pre-processing. So dealing with missing data and removing the irrelevant attribute which are not which will unnecessarily make the data capture complicated, which will not give us any useful data, we can remove those attributes or those data points from our data. That is also part of pre-processing. Yes, Akshay?
Ma'am, I had a general question. So we have read that our clicks can be get stored. Like whatever thing we do, watch a video timestamp get stored. So in a general question, like if we are on a Swayam platform, for example, and they're recording our like clicks and they're recording our clicks and whatever we do, and we can be recorded. And if we get like something important from our bank account or something, and we shift the Swayam platforms on in the background, and we shift there. So does they have the access, or
No.
does they have the access to see that also? The
No,
clips
no,
also?
no. So you don't need to worry about those aspects of Swayam, because main problem with NPTEL is as they don't have
Well, not
servers
just
to
Swayam, but
store this
any
data.
other
No,
platforms
any
also.
other platform, what happens is their server is connected to that particular web page or that particular tab. So even if your bank account is opened in other tab, that server will not be able to access the other tab and your other data, unless and until you install some malware onto your computer, onto your laptop. Then your what clicks you are doing in your computer, all those clicks will be transferred to the hackers. So that becomes the extreme scenario. But now we have the antivirus softwares which protect us from such kind of malwares. Earlier it was very common that you download some songs, you play, and then in the background some virus used to get installed, and then they used to capture all the clicks which you are doing, and then transfer that through internet to some hackers, and then they would get information about what you are doing in your computer. But right now things have improved so much. Even the bank websites, they have higher levels of encryption deployed, so it's not easy to hack onto your banking data. Yeah.
Okay,
And
ma'am.
that's why the data privacy, the digital data privacy is also very strict for everyone, for all the online platforms. They have to tell us. So when you install any apps on your phone, you get your terms and conditions. So in if have you read the terms and condition, the very long document comes. So there they actually disclose what type of data they would be capturing. So either you can agree or disagree to that. So whenever now you are installing new app, try to read the terms and conditions app, where or you grant access. So they ask for access to your location, they ask for access to your camera, they ask for access to your contacts. So all that is part of this data privacy setup. The ethics of data privacy, that the user should know what data is getting captured and how it will be used. So all that information is disclosed in that disclaimer which comes before you install any software in your computer or in your laptop or in your mobile also. Okay.
Okay, ma'am, one more thing.
Hmm.
And does this thing like the click we do, does it happen only on a Move platform or any other platform? And if so, in any other platform it also happen. So doesn't it breach our data privacy? Like if they did, like for the YouTube, if they do so, doesn't they doesn't ask for any access or something like that?
Yeah.
So doesn't it accessing our data privacy?
Mm-hmm. So what happens is, when you made account on YouTube, you have given them right to capture your session data, what type of videos you are watching, and what yeah, for how long you are watching that video. So you have given them right to record that information, and what they do is they use that data to personalize the content for you. So they would give you video recommendation based on what type of videos you are watching. So they use that data for recommendation, and they are using that data for pushing the advertisements also. So they are using, so when they say that for social media, it is not free of cost. The product is not social media, the product is you, the user. End user is product. So they use it that way, that they use your browsing data, everything, for revenue generation, for advertisement also. That's why I will recommend. So if you are concerned or if you are interested, I will recommend one documentary on Netflix, Social Dilemma. Yeah. So that's a very excellent documentary, that how this entire system works of data and the social platforms, the social media platforms, how they influence our lives. So that's why this data privacy becomes very ethical and very moral, moral concern. Okay, so if you are more interested, please go and watch a documentary called Social Dilemma. It was released on Netflix. I'm not sure if it is available on YouTube or on other open OTT platforms. Okay, that's an interesting
Okay,
take
ma'am.
on how our data is used or misused. Yeah. Coming to question 9, which of the following are true about privacy of learners, or data privacy? So someone's right to keep information about themselves secret, yes, it is true about data privacy. It's basic human right, yet it has become, now it has been declared as one of the basic human rights, the privacy, to protect our data, the right to protect our data, and the right to having a basic data privacy. Then privacy has social benefits. No, privacy doesn't have direct social benefits. Then personal privacy can be exploited for sake of scientific advancement. No, as a scientific researchers, we don't have any advantage to exploit the data privacy, or to be entitled to breach anybody's data privacy. Okay, so that was the question 9. Then question 10, arrange the following sentences in correct order of sequence. So I have given this correct sequence, that first we need to get approval of ethics committee, then we need to get informed consent from participants, then we collect the data, Then we do, once we have collected the data, then we do data pre-processing, and then we analyze the data, and lastly we interpret the results of the analysis and do the report writing. Yeah, and report writing. That's the last process. So the correct sequence is in option 1. Okay, so we have gone through all the questions once again. Yes, Darshini.
Ma'am, I saw one question that about the MOOC platform.
Mm-hmm.
Will collect the data about extracurricular curriculum activities.
How they can collect the data from extracurricular activities, because that's not part of what you're doing on the MOOC platform, right? This is
Okay,
something which you're
extracurriculum
doing in your
activities.
personal life, no? So unless and until they float some forms where you do some kind of self reporting, they will not have that information about you, know what you're doing outside the MOOC platform. They can't
Okay,
capture that.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any more questions?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay, then I think we can close today's session. I spoke a lot today, so I'm a bit tired. Yeah. Okay, so see you all next week. Same
Okay,
time
ma'am.
and
Thank you,
same
ma'am.
link. Tomorrow, live interaction with Professor Ramkumar. Don't forget, if you have doubts, to attend that session. I am hoping that NPTEL folks will update on Swayam platform for link to the recordings. If not, I have already pinned link to the YouTube channel. By tomorrow morning or tonight only, I will try to upload today's recording. Yeah, so see you all next week.
Okay, ma'am.